good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
What's greetings, Earth?
Same genius time.
Any demographic I identify with.
I don't believe you murder.
I think an ignorant voter and a non-voter
What he did. He took the military out
are
before
one and
he
the
took
same.
the civilians.
Same
Who does
genius
that?
channel.
Under his watch.
What
Know
has
something.
he done about police reform in this country? Nothing.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to Unsolicited Genius. I am your curator, Carlton Ennis. I am joined today by the methodically meticulous Craig Lindo and the articulate antagonist Mo Lawful. On today's show, we will talk about what is on our mind: football, and more football, and the eclipse of the clips. We hope to give you something to ponder. Gentlemen, what is up?
What's good, my brother? How are you?
Doing well.
Can't call it, I might spoil it.
Can't call it my sport. True that. I got some news. I got married a week ago, so I had updates for the group. Yeah.
I was blessed enough to be there, man. It was a beautiful ceremony. I love your wife. I love you, man, and I wish y'all nothing but the best on this beautiful journey you guys are about to take together.
Much appreciated.
Happiness and prosperity, big dog.
Amen, he said. All right. So enough of that. What is on your minds today? Lots to be grateful for, lots we could probably talk about, but I'll start with you, Brother Craig. What is on your mind today that you'd like to share with the good people?
I am comically entertained by all the people that are threatening to block or unfollow or cut off their friends on social media at the idea that their followers or friends may have voted differently than them. I remember a couple years ago where they were trying to 4 years ago when they were trying to give lectures from a soapbox on how to be a winner with class and not a sore loser. They could benefit from following their own advice. And how arrogant of you to think that you offer so much value with your post that it's going to hurt anybody when you block them or cut them off. I find a lot of comedy in that.
It's funny. I had somebody on my timeline post that if you voted this way, you can unfriend me. And so I was curious as to the reactions. So where you say, how dare you, or not how dare you, but who cares, right? Some people care because some responded. There was some, dialogue, some of it vitriol, some of it trying to seek understanding, some of it just throwing up the deuces. But I hear you loud and clear. It's definitely some audaciousness to it. There's definitely some audaciousness to it. But yeah, that is the world in which we live in.
You look like a sucker and a petulant child.
All right. Uncle Mo, what's on your mind?
No, I definitely agree with you. There are people out there that care if you block them. No, I don't even know how to check to see if you block me. Like, I have no idea how to do that. So if you have ever blocked me, just know I don't know. So I definitely don't care. But, I guess the election's on my mind, man. From looking at it from not an emotional standpoint, it was pretty obvious to me that in this election, I feel like the economy was the number one factor in this election, dog. Like, when people started to evaluate everything else, this is the number one thing it came down to, was the cost of goods. The Democrats wanted to make it about things like abortion. The problem with making it a topic about abortion is abortion doesn't affect the majority of people in their everyday lives. You know what I'm saying? When you go to that grocery store and you bought 6 items and those 6 items cost $100 or $125 or however high your grocery bill is gone, you feel that every day. You feel that in your wallet. You feel that in your pocket. And people were looking for someone to blame, and they clearly blamed Biden, and via proxy they blamed Harris for it, and that's why she didn't get elected. Man, do I think race had a factor to play in it? Absolutely. Do I think gender had a factor to play in it? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest factor was the economy. The amount of Latino men and Black men that voted for Trump, was a bit shocking to me. But I guess when people's money's hurting, they are going to look for an alternative to get them out of that situation. And I feel like that's what this election spoke to. The Democrats have a lot of they really need to reassess what they're doing. They really need to reassess what they're doing. They need to reach people at a level that they can relate to people. I feel like there's some Democrats that kind of snub their nose at the uneducated people of this country, and unfortunately, that's the majority of the country. Either because they don't have access to education, or for whatever reason, the majority of the country is not college educated. So they really need to reassess about how they are reaching the common American, and how to address their problems. Because am I disappointed? I'm very disappointed, because I'm disappointed, man, because I don't feel like Trump is a good person. Like, just at a simple, and on that simple level of it, I just don't feel he's a good person. I don't feel like he's a person that unifies this country. He just causes division in this country.
So before you continue, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'd like to, before we get into Trump, before we respond to Trump, talk about that aspect of it. I'm curious as to Brother Craig's response to the election results. So we're a week removed, or tomorrow would be a full week removed, but in the 6 days that transpired, what are your thoughts, opinions, feelings, reactions about the election results, Brother Craig?
I think the super PAC the PACs and super PACs that have funded the election, they won. A couple of which funded both sides, and as a result, were able to keep certain talking points off the platforms. And as a result, they won. They would have won either way. It's just a matter of which avatar was going to be the representative or the manager of the United States of America Incorporated, which is just a matter of which one would be the manager of getting their visions executed. So I think that it is, for a long time, it has never been the people that have decided the elections. It's been the those who bankroll the elections that get what they want, truly. So that appears to be who won to me, AIPAC being one of them. Just to name one, for example, I think one of the things that stood out to me is, after record turnout 4 years ago, the amount, and right now the nominal number is about 15 million people that stayed home. The number of people that stayed home and didn't vote at all stands out to me also. I do think it's natural to begin finger pointing, but the finger pointing should have started years ago, when they started robbing people of primary nominations, even when they did have time, referring to the DNC. So they definitely got to revisit how they run things. When I say they, that's the DNC. I'm not a member of either gang, RNC or DNC. I'm just saying that, observationally. However, I think the PACs and super PACs wound up winning anyway, because those who bankroll win. And again, I think there should be an eyebrow should be raised to the number of people that stayed home versus 4 years ago.
Okay. All right. So all fares in love and politics. So Uncle Mo, you were getting into Trump specifically. So you have thoughts about the presidential. It's not nominee now. What is he? Awardee? What is it?
President-elect.
President-elect?
Mhm.
President. You have thoughts about the renewed president-elect. So the floor is open.
Yeah, man, it just like from a moral standpoint, I just don't feel like he's a good person. He's not good for this country in terms of he's definitely not a unifier. This just shows more division. And then, for the people that voted for him, man, I'm not I mean, I'm with Craig on this. I'm not gonna be out here threatening to block you because I don't feel like that means anything in the grand scheme of things. But like if you didn't think that they had this Project 25 agenda, we're about to find out. If you think your life is about to get better as a person of color because he's going to be the president, we're about to find out. So, I guess we just, as always, I guess, man, you just put it in God's hands and hope that it works out. But the other part, the DNC, like Craig said, I'm an equal criticizer of both parties, so I tend to lean towards the Democratic Party. Sure, but to Craig's point, man, it just feels like you're always going with the lesser of two evils in a lot of ways. And the Democrats, though, man, all their focus is on how many times have you heard them say, for example, we need to get the black vote, we need to get the black vote, we need to get the black vote. But Carlton, I would argue to them, the vote that keeps escaping them that they never get is the poor white vote. Is the class of white Americans who are socioeconomically challenged. They are incapable of getting this vote, even though the majority of their programs would benefit poor white people in this country. So they really need to reassess their messaging, how they're getting out on the floor. I give you an example, man. Like Michigan, right? Why did they lose Michigan this year? In your opinion?
I don't have one. You tell us.
So what helped them win Michigan last time was the black vote and the Muslim community. The Muslim community didn't come out to vote for them, to Craig's point, because look what's going on in Israel. They don't support what Biden and the Harris administration have been doing in Israel. Therefore, they didn't come out to vote for them, and she lost Michigan. Every state that Biden was able to flip in his favor essentially went back red in this election. This election really wasn't that close. She didn't win the popular vote. She didn't win any of the battleground states. They took the Senate. They're looking like they have a chance to take the House. And at that level of failure, you really need to reassess what you're doing and figure out how to reach the people that feel you don't have their best interest at heart at all.
So ponder me this, brother Craig. How much do you think the outcome was influenced by the timing of Kamala's non-primary nomination? Being that had the Democrats decided 3-4 years ago that this was going to be Biden's last term and giving her the opportunity to campaign showcase over a longer period of time, how much of that do you think had impact, if any, in the outcome?
I think the nomination process did have an impact, and likely a significant one. It dealt Kamala a bad hand to begin with. And by being the sitting vice president, it made it harder for her to separate herself from the current administration without creating negative headlines. It also put her in a place where, yeah, she needed to separate herself to some extent from the current administration in order to gain new votes, especially with where in the current administration, the popularity dropped significantly after year one, right? And has never recovered since that significant drop. So she needed to separate herself and create her own personality. Instead, she found herself either defending or towing, quote unquote, the company line throughout her entire yet short-lived campaign. That put her in a bad situation from jump. Kamala never really established her own political identity that was separate from the current administration or the current sitting president. So that is one way, and that includes especially on the issue where on the issue in the Middle East, whether you want to call it Gaza, Israel, Canaan, West Asia, whatever. That did play a factor into it too. And when you look, and I think there are other issues that are attached to that made it harder for her to separate herself, or whether it's be by who's funding or the purse strings or whatever. It did make it very difficult for her.
You had thoughts, Agamo?
No, I agree with him. The Democrats, Craig and Carlton, are never playing chess. They're always playing checkers. Biden had no business thinking he could run for a second term. He should have, the minute he got elected president, he should have said he was going to be a one-term president. I'll give you another example. Ruth Bader Ginsburg refused to step down when Obama was president. She waits. Trump becomes president. She dies while Trump is president. The Republicans get another spot on the Supreme Court. They wait till Biden has an implosion in a debate, and then they try to just rush Harris out there. And Craig is 1,000% right, man. She couldn't distance herself from Biden because she's part of the administration, but he's an unpopular president. Rule one in politics, you align yourself with a political figure that is popular. You don't align. How many Republicans, including J.D. Vance, who's the vice president for Trump now, bashed Trump in 2016? But when they look at their party and they see how popular Trump is, they kneel and they kiss the ring because they realize that Trump can get them somewhere with his followers that they can't get on their own. She could never shake off the stigma of Biden not being a popular president, dog. Like, you add that if you're baking a cake, right, for politics, you have that Biden's unpopular, she's black, she's a woman, people are looking at the economy and the price of their goods skyrocketing. When you really look back at this election, how is she supposed to really win? Sounds like a recipe for disaster. It truly sounds like a recipe for disaster, man. And the Democrats really got to smarten up because forget these 4 years with Trump. It's the next 40 years that I'm worried about because they get to decide who these next federal judges are going to be. If a Supreme Court opens up in this next 4 year, they're going to get to put another person on the Supreme Court. And people underestimate the power that comes with being able to control the judiciary. Because if Democrats, even if they get the White House back and all this, if you have courts ruling that what they're doing is unconstitutional, guess what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So that's the part, like, you got to give the Republicans respect for, man. They play the long game. They play the long game to get what they want for them and their constituents. And I've said this many times, before he started freezing up and having to reboot himself, Mitch McConnell was like a master politician. Like, Mitch McConnell always figured a way to get what he and the Republican Party wanted. To the point, Carlton, where sometimes I would be like, man, I wish he was on the other side, because he was just that good at manipulating the situations into their favor. And the Democrats don't play that game. They just don't. Like, who are they grooming to run for this next election?
Well, they got to recover first. Craig, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just to play off of Mo's word choice, because we've heard it a lot during this election and leading up to it. Control the judiciary. one, that's a flag that checks and balances is dead. If you can control the judiciary, then where's the checks and balances in there? And yeah, I do agree with the value of being able to place people in the Supreme Court judiciary.
And Craig, it's not just the Supreme Court either, dog. It's the other federal courts.
I agreed, agreed.
People need to realize that federal judges, you know what their term is? It's a life term. Like they get to do it for as long as they want until they die, if that's what they choose. Like,
and maybe that needs to be revisited.
Oh, maybe. Dog, it definitely needs to be revisited. Like 1,000% would agree with your assessment that it definitely needs to be revisited. But once again, you have to have the foresight and the long-term planning if you want to revisit something like that. And when you look at the Democratic Party right now, I'm not sure that they have that. I really don't.
So to the lay person, because you brothers have brilliantly articulated kind of how we got here, where the opportunity exists, at least for the Democratic Party. That's not, I think we all acknowledge that there's pros, cons. It's not necessarily the world coming to end because Trump won, but there is a Project 2025. There are other things that loom in his administration. So separate from the Democratic Party checking themselves, fixing themselves as a community, as individuals, as a people, as teachers, as fathers, as friends, as brothers, as cousins, whatever, where do we go from here? Where do we go with this?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, I saw a post and I agreed with this post. You know, the rest of the country needs to figure out like how they're going to be fine. Hey, man, Black people are survivors. They've survived a lot in this country's history. They'll survive this too. So there's the other people that, to me, you know, need to see if they will be able to survive what's about to happen, dog. And I pray that, to Craig's point, that there are checks and balances to rein him in, because he does give off this fascist vibe to me of a person that wants to be almost like a supreme leader that can't be questioned. So I'm just praying that the safeguards that are in the Constitution do provide the checks and balances that are necessary to rein him in. But what president, if they get the House, Carlton and Craig, what presidents came into a situation where they have the power that Trump is about to have on January 20th? Because they might have the House, the Senate, they control the judiciary because he's appointed a lot of these federal judges. You know, people forget Hitler was an elected official, man. Like, Hitler didn't just take power. Hitler was an elected official that then found a way to have them give him complete power, and he just never gave it back. So, you know, that would be my biggest concern with another 4 years of Trump. So we're gonna see.
So what would be your, call it, advice to the lay citizen, Brother Craig? What would you say what would you advise a response to
Lay low.
election results be?
I'm just as flabbergasted as everybody else in different ways, but part of that would be to, and I know this is hard because we're all consumed with our own day-to-day lives and just trying to survive, but we definitely have to make an effort to become more involved in our community politics and our community level. I believe that this will help us find some of our future leaders and people that could take over and fight for. Because as it is right now, yes, the quote unquote, the image of the Democratic Party that they try to purport is that of, hey, we stand for the working and middle class, but their actions tell us that they're pawns of the aristocracy. right? They say one thing, but the behavior is the other. So until their behavior aligns with what they purport their image to be, then, or we could force them, maybe not, maybe force is not the right word, but until we could, until the populace can get them to align their actions with their words in terms of what they say they are or who they represent, then we're out of luck. And somehow we have to convince them that it's worth it for them to represent who they say they represent.
On that note, we'll take a break and be right back.
PM.
Welcome back, Unsolicited Genius. Are you entertained? We for new to us, keep going with the flow. If you've been here before, we got a little format switch, but stick with us, you'll like it. Are you entertained? What have you gentlemen been listening to? Uncle Mo.
I've been listening to Tupac, man. Whenever something happens that like messes with me on an emotional level, I usually go to the Tupac, dog. So just a lot of Tupac, man. Like
Any particular album, a
no,
sequence of
just jumping from
songs?
songs I like, man. Like I love dog, I think Smile with him and Scarface is like a top 20 song of all time for me. Like
Okay.
I could listen to that song all day. I love Thug's Mansion. Thug's Mansion makes me feel like I hope heaven is like that, dog. Like I hope I'm sitting there kicking it with Malcolm till the day comes, you know? So Picture Me Rolling is a song that puts me in a good mood, you know. Troublesome 96. I just go to Tupac, man, you know. Like when he said, you know, I don't think we're ready to see a black president, and we actually saw a black president in our lifetime. Like, but
We did.
it also just makes me think, dog. He never said we'll never see a woman president, and I wonder, dog, like, will we ever see a woman president in our lifetime? In me and your lifetime. So you know, just Tupac, man. I don't think Tupac is like the best rapper ever. I don't believe this. I don't think he's the most skilled rapper ever. But I do feel that there's no rapper that's able to touch on an emotional state that you're in better than Tupac Shakur. So I've been listening to Tupac, man.
How about you, Brother Craig? What you been listening to?
I've been listening to a brother by the name of Ab-Soul. His most recent two albums, recently the most recent drop is Soul Burger. That was cool. I enjoyed it, but the one right before that, Herbert, I enjoy even more. So I've been banging a lot of Ab-Soul over the last week and change.
Okay.
I like, you know me, I like guys that are lyrical with it. TDE usually doesn't let me down on the production. So it's been a vibe, and there's you know, granted, I don't recall ever even being to California, and he's a West Coast guy, but there's a lot of things in there I kind of relate to the vibe and the message and the idea behind. So yeah, I'm shouting out Ab-Soul on Soul Burger and Herbert, his two most recent projects.
All right. I dabbled in the Soul Burger a little bit. I need to go back to it. I think I just had it playing in the background. So I actually went a little backwards. I was going through the catalog and went to the Lord Willing by the Clips. It's one of those albums that
Lunch
I
Table
played.
It's a great album, dog.
On the regular when it came out, but just not for one reason or another, maybe because Pusha T been flying solo is just something that I hadn't gone back to in a long time. And so what my takeaway, my reactions are: one, them brothers is talented, man. I mean, when they are some true hood Shakespeares. And hearing Malice again, I that much more impressed by his willingness to step away, because how he rapped what he rapped about, I mean, it was some malice in it, man, and it was intense and it was raw and it was good from the rapping sense of it. And Pusha T always had the talent, always been talented. And I think hearing Malice, hearing them together, that then has me that much more impressed with Pusha T willingness to just push on without his brother, because they were a tight squad, and I guess for Lord willing, Pharrell did a lot of the production, but just to know what good music did and became and where Pusha has gone with his career, them, doing it together, man, it would have been intense. But all that being said, Malice walked away because of his convictions. He didn't want to be about that no more. And his relationship with God was guiding him different. So he's no Malice today, but that Lord willing was a hot album. So it took me back a little bit.
The beats on that album are crazy, dog. This is like peak Neptunes.
Dog, that's that you had somebody, if you ain't had somebody in your crew that couldn't replicate 1 or 2 on the beats on the lunch table for you to freestyle, man, I'm sorry for you. I appreciated that.
I mean, you talking about the music, but dog, that album had me feeling like, I was like, man, I could sell cocaine. Like, I know what I need to do to sell cocaine. Like, I could get out in these streets and move this white.
Yeah. And what was funny, I don't know why this may have resonated then, but it hit me different today. Malice said that when he started listening to Miami Vice, when he started watching Miami Vice, everything shifted. He saw the world differently.
It's a great album. That's a good listen, dog.
All right. So that's what you're listening to. What have you gentlemen been watching? Start with you, Brother Craig.
On Hulu, I watched an entire season in the past week of a show called Rivals. It is set in the United Kingdom, basically 1930s, just after the fall of the monarchy, when the aristocracy was trying to take over that same situation, role that the monarchy played. And I'm not sure if it's based in a true story. I didn't look it up. They did use a lot of real names and real historical reference points to guide the story. I was very entertained by it. I watched Rivals.
All right. And you said on Hulu. How about you? What about you, Uncle Mo? What you been watching?
I mean, I've been watching a lot of shit about the French Revolution, man. Like about that time period, that the Enlightenment that led to all the revolutions. And I'm always just struck by how they talked about like the ideals of equality and equal justice under the law for all men, and all of these wonderful themes that you love to throw out, but they always excluded people of color and women from those conversations. It was essentially, those ideals were only geared towards the white man. So I've been watching a lot about the French Revolution, man, the American Revolution. I've been studying up on the Haitian Revolution. These are all revolutions that took place due to the ideals of the Enlightenment. So I've just been watching a lot of things about those revolutions, man. Haitian Revolution is like, they punished those people for getting their freedom from the French, dog. Like,
well, some say they still are being punished. How you see
Agreed.
it?
like America didn't acknowledge Haiti's independence or sovereignty as a country until 1862, which is essentially like 45 years after they got that. And the world isolated them to essentially make an example out of them. And Haiti has never, you know, socioeconomically recovered from that isolation that the world placed them under because they had the nerve to get their sovereignty. The other thing is that annoys me about the Haitian Revolution, man, is it's an amazing uprising when you think about it. It's like a slave rebellion that was able to essentially not only defeat Napoleon and get him to give them their sovereignty, but it also forced Napoleon to sell Louisiana to the United States. It had a great benefit to America because Napoleon realized that he wasn't going to be able to maintain his empire in this part of the world. But there's textbooks that have chapters on the American Revolution and chapter after chapter on the French Revolution. And you look in the textbook that I was looking at, it's 4 sentences, Craig. It's 4 sentences. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, they're still trying to suppress this revolution for some reason and make it seem as though it didn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I
More
may
sentences, dog.
I may not agree with it, but you have your next generation or generations coming about. You have to be careful about what you tell them or send them or the seeds that you plant in them. So, you know, you have to control information. That's why they're fighting so hard to control. That's why I loosely use the term they. They're fighting so hard to control the internet right now because the dissemination of information might give the next generation ideas. Just like how I mentioned a little bit earlier, the monarchy and the aristocracy, how they weren't necessarily happy with the general population having access to a printing press to create publications and of their own, because
what you know about
information matters. Huh?
You know what you know about the Gutenberg printing press, dog? I see you. But no, it wasn't even just the printing press, Craig. Knowledge, like, and I beg people to research things, to read, to inform themselves, because Craig is absolutely right. They have tried to suppress knowledge and information and keep it from people for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years, because that knowledge allowed them to have power over the people. And when people like Craig said, when the printing press came about and information and education was more widespread, all of a sudden people started questioning these institutions that they just kind of took their word for at the beginning. And that's what inspired these revolutions, is people gain knowledge. Not only the printing press, Craig, but they also started printing it in the vernacular of the people so they could actually read it. And the church was one of the main ones that started this. The church tried to suppress information and knowledge and keep it from people so that the people became dependent on the church for everything. They never wanted people to be able to have a direct relationship with God. They always wanted them to go through the middleman, which was the church, to gain their relationship, because that allowed them to hold power over people. So
shepherd over sheep.
Yeah, now that we do have access to information, you just got to make sure the information you're reading is legit and seek that knowledge. Machiavelli, he said, and I love the guy because he said that the unarmed man is at a disadvantage against the armed man. And everyone thought he was talking about a person with a weapon versus an unarmed person. But what he was talking about is your mind. The armed man in the debate or in the intellectual discussion is at a tremendous advantage over the unarmed man. And we need to make sure we're getting educated, man. Like, I should check out Machiavelli, man.
Which is why I think it's, as much as they use it as a talking point, improving education, it is not in the government's best interest to improve education. An educated populace is their worst nightmare.
Oh, that's why they're trying to suppress it, dog. That's why they're trying to get rid of some of these books. That's why they're trying to get rid of these things. Because you're right. they know the old person is entrenched in their way of life with their racism and their bigotry and their supremacy and all this. They don't want these young kids to come up thinking a different way.
Metaphorically speaking, with that old person, the jello is already set and solidified. These young people it's not the case.
They're the ones they worry about, because these are the young people are the ones that could bring about the change that this world and our country needs to see. That is their biggest fear.
The indoctrination already worked.
Yeah. And they try to paint it as some negative thing, like getting educated. Oh, you're educating them on slavery benefited America. You know why? Because slavery did benefit America. It was critical to the economic development of this country.
So related, unrelated, because we are still in the art of entertain discussion. So I definitely appreciate the insight. No, that's good, because it's all connected. It's all connected. It's all connected. That's why we go on the journeys that we do. My watch has been The Diplomat, which is a political drama. So while on our honeymoon week, me and the wife had some downtime, and we tuned into some Netflix and whatnots. And we've finished Ben watched the second season of The Diplomat, which is, as I said, a political drama. It's a diplomat in the for those not familiar, diplomat in the UK, helping or resolving challenges on an international scale in representation of the United States. So no spoilers, I'll leave it at that. But the thing that jumps out for me as we talk about our politics and the president and checks and balances is that we have what they in the movie or in the series they call the Second Army, which is the sequence of federal service officers. So they're not on the military front lines, but they too put their lives at risk. They too leave their families behind to negotiate, to bargain, to act, and to make decisions on behalf of the United States, which will have implications in tariffs and military lines and all these other things that we talk about. So what I took from that is that it's some people that we don't see. There are some unsung heroes that I offer true gratitude to. And at the same time, they all in the series strike me as highly intelligent, capable, powerful-minded people. So with the outcomes of the elections, I wonder about them, because they're still meeting with the foreign secretary of the UK. They're still meeting with dignitaries in and out of China and trying to work and act and negotiate deals on behalf of the United States. So it's a great show. The storyline is awesome. They put some, romance, some comedy, some drama in it too, but it just makes me wonder what's really going on and what's really going to happen as things continue to unfold in our government. All right. So listen to, watch, gentlemen, what have you been reading? And I'll start with you, Uncle Mo.
The Enlightenment. I've been watching and reading about the same things, man. The Enlightenment and the Revolution. So I won't rehash that, but that's just what's piqued my curiosity recently, dog. So I'm all in on that right now.
So this is your know-how. Are you teaching this to your students?
I'm teaching it to my students. So I just become really locked in and invested in the things that I'm teaching them, and that's what I'm teaching them now. Because I'm not I guess you could say I'm not a traditional teacher in the sense where I'm using the textbook like that. I'm seeking all kinds of sources of information to make sure that I'm giving my students what actually happened. That's what I'm trying to give my students. A real life perspective of what actually took place, not some sugar-coated version of it. So once I'm into teaching something, man, I heavily invest in that.
All right. All right, what you been reading, Brother Craig?
First, let me shout out Mo for that, because I say to my students all the time, the minute that your learning is limited to what's between the borders of your textbook, you're destined to be a sheep. Always go, like, no matter what you read, take them words and phrases and go investigate it outside of the textbook. So shout out for you for that. Like, never stop at the textbook, no matter what subject it is. As far as reading, I've been slowly trying to get through the Four Agreements, but honestly, I'm more compelled to consistently go back to studying at Old Testament stuff and the Book of Enoch. I'm always in there. I'm always trying to dissect things in Old Testament, and when Book of Enoch is categorized as apocrypha, but that means nothing to me. So I've kind of been in both of those places trying to get an understanding of why it's apocrypha, and also, man, a lot of the things that it feels right. It makes more sense to me. I get more out of the Old Testament than I do the New, and I get a lot. I'm fascinated by the content in the Book of Enoch 1, 2, and 3.
So when you say you get more out of the old than the new, what does that mean?
I think you find more genius there that is overlooked than anything else. No pun intended with the genius thing. But I think as far as there are books that address how I could be living my day-to-day life, and verses in there that mean a lot. It also, I think by looking at the Old Testament, you could also, it exposes certain alterations and changes that are kind of nonsensical that were made in New Testament and other things that are implied or spoken after. Whether it be diet or the historical part of it, because I think a lot of times we look at it we look at the Bible as if it's written with a bunch of voodoo and magic, and there are parts where it's metaphorical, but there are parts where it's literal history, and I find value in seeing that. I first got on this path where I was, years ago when I was going to church, and I'm the type of dude that writes in his Bible. So when certain verses or books would come up, I put a little check mark or some kind of marking in it. And I found that a couple years went by and I was putting check marks and markings next to the same verses, but there were entire books that were never discussed. That was a red flag to me. So I made it my mission to start reading those books and sections that were totally avoided by my spiritual leader. When they started avoiding it, it made it more important for me to go back and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Greg, do you have any interest doesn't the Catholic Church also have books that they've never made available to the public?
Well, yeah, that's throughout all the denominations. That's why they acknowledge certain things as canon and certain things as not. And the more and more you look back, you realize that acknowledging certain books as canon and as not was more of a political decision than a spiritual decision.
So I'm reading the Bible chronologically. And so I guess I will offer that into, what I'm reading. I am up to Psalms, so I'm still kind of in the story of David. But I read both. I read Old Testament, New Testament. I do different discussions, different study plans. And so, just as another perspective, what I offer, if is based on the perspective through which you're consuming the information. If it's from a historical aspect into just understanding what was, how it was lived, and things of that nature, that's one vantage point. But if the intent is to take in the Bible and allow it to be a guidebook for living holistically, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, in relationships, in community, with self, with family, all those things. If one seeks to get guidance from the book, I would advise a balanced approach, because the point of the Old Testament is for the New Testament. So holistically, you don't have one without the other. Now, how they're taught, how they're used. I was born, raised Catholic, so we could do a whole show on the man's religious take and use and misuse and abuse of the Bible. But in terms of the text and what God intends for us to ascertain, it's through both aspects of it. Because Jesus was the point. All of that was leading to him. And then through him, we get God's graces as we exist today, so to speak. So on that, we'll take a 30-second break and be right back. Welcome back. This is Unsolicited Genius. What in the sports, gentlemen? So we wrapping up the college football season. Only got a couple more weeks. We know a lot more today than we did a week ago, 2 weeks ago. With where things stand, any standouts, any reactions? What you want to call out? Start with you, Brother Craig.
I think it's speaking without my Gator bias, I think it's been an exciting season. And this past weekend, with the events of UM and UGA and their losses, find them to be beautiful and timely, and adding some intrigue into the season. I'm looking forward to going to work tomorrow, and the Hurricane fans at work have been a special brand of creature to deal with over the last couple of weeks. I want to see their demeanor tomorrow and what their talking points are tomorrow. But for me, it's been extremely entertaining. I do think that we're probably going to get some underrated quarterbacks out of this class, out of the season, even though all of the attention seems to be on little homie in Miami. What's his name again?
Cam Ward.
Cam Ward.
And
Ward.
and
Cam
Shador.
Ward and Shador Sanders are the top
Yeah,
two.
Ward and Sanders have dominated the media attention, but I do think that in 5 years' time, it is very likely that we will find at least 2 to 3 quarterbacks coming out of this class better than them. I just think the way the parity is playing out, yeah.
I mean, I asked because my Giants looking for a quarterback, so I'm in scout mode. But I interrupt. Go ahead.
And I'm also intrigued by potential coaching changes. I think Lane Kiffin winning this past weekend kind of took him off the table for at the disappointment of a lot of Gator fans that were kind of clamoring for his name. The gentleman over at Tulane has been another name. I think if we're going to make a change at the University of Florida, maybe look at that. But I don't know if there is a strong enough name to make the change yet, even though Gator fans are clamoring for a change at the head coach position. But those are the kind of aspects of the game that are kind of entertaining me outside of just the games themselves.
All right. What's your thoughts on the NCAA football as it stands today, Uncle Mo?
Man, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about Florida, but please, I'll take anyone over Billy Napier. Lane Kiffin, wait for him if that's who you want. The other buddy that I would be interested in is Indiana's head coach. Any mofo that could take Indiana to 10-0 has got my antennas peaked up. So he's got Indiana at 10-0. I can't believe the Hoosiers are a top 5 team in college football, man. So
how do you feel about their strength of schedule?
Who has Indiana played?
I mean, Michigan's down, but they beat Michigan.
I mean, they're not playing in a scrub conference. Indiana's strength of schedule is better than Miami's. Indiana's strength of schedule is better than Miami's, man.
That don't say a lot.
Yeah, because Indiana's. I'm trying to find it right now, so I'm looking. Give me one.
I don't know their strength of schedule, but they beat UCLA, they beat Maryland, they beat Washington, they beat Michigan State, they beat Michigan, but they still they play Ohio State this week. So
we're gonna find something about Indiana this week.
They play Ohio State, so we'll know for certain.
I think it's been a great season, like Craig said, man. Yeah, they're at Ohio State, so that's not this week. That's on the 23rd.
Yeah, the 23rd.
So, that's when we'll learn a lot about them, man. But to the Miami fans that are crying because Georgia's in front of them in this latest poll that came out, stop it. Stop it. The amount of losses you have is less relevant in this new format than it is who you play. Georgia's 2 losses are to Alabama and Ole Miss, both on the road. They have a win over Texas. That supersedes Miami only having 1 loss. Because who has Miami beat? Who has Miami beat?
Exactly.
And the other part for Miami is, in a lot of their wins, these haven't been runaway blowout wins. These have been contested games against essentially scrubbed teams. So
ask Cal about it.
But yeah, Cal is garbage, and they had to come back, and it was an impressive comeback. But if you're a Miami fan, what you take solace in is if you win the ACC, you're in. All you have to do is win the ACC, regardless of how many losses you have. So as long as they win the ACC, they're good. And the only team in the ACC I doubt Georgia Tech is going to be in the ACC championship game, so they don't have to worry about that. They're probably going to be playing Clemson, man. They're probably going to be playing Clemson. So Miami wins the ACC, they're good. Georgia doesn't look like the same team this year, though. Georgia, and anybody that thought Carson Beck was a first-round quarterback, please. Carson Beck looks like hot garbage. Carson Beck looks like the other team's best quarterback when I watch Georgia play. Sometimes you got to embrace being the game manager, dog, where you don't turn over the ball because the talent around you is so good. So right now, man, if you ask me who do I think is the best team, it's tough, dude. I think there is parity this year, dog. Like, Oregon is the deserving number 1 right now, but is it Oregon, Ohio State in this new Big Ten championship, 1 versus 2? Get to duke it out before these playoffs start. BYU is undefeated. I love that running back at Boise State, dog. I love that running back at Boise State. Is Boise State going to get in? Does Texas A&M is still alive? Notre Dame, after that shocking loss at home, they smacked Florida State, boy. Florida State, woo! It's bad to be a Gator fan, but I'd rather be a Gator fan than a Seminole. Them boys.
But now, we still got to play them, and I wouldn't put anything past it.
Oh, because we got our 3rd-string quarterback. Doc, if we lose here's a confession for y'all. Y'all boys ready? I'm going for Florida State. Because if we lose to Florida State...
Gator blasphemy.
Listen to my logic, though. If Florida State beats us, they won't even let Billy Napier on the bus. That is our mission this year, Craig, is everything that we need to do to get rid of Billy Napier. Not only him, but the AD. Strickland's got to go, too. To make a statement saying he's sticking with Billy Napier and giving him time is absurd. Doug, why are we keeping this AD around? Look at who he's hired. Look at his 2 hires. right? Before Napier, it was Dan Mullen, and now we got Napier, and he hired a basketball coach that's stalking the student population. Like, why are we keeping this guy around? So I'll give anything to get rid. You ain't hear about our basketball coach?
I saw a headline. I didn't dive into
There's
it.
allegations that he's stalking females on campus. Allegations, allegedly. So I would do anything to get rid of Billy Napier and the AD, dog. Both of them have to go.
All right. So college football, what are your in professional football? What are your NFL reactions? Your Niners survived a close one yesterday, Uncle Mo. How are you feeling about your team?
I got all kinds of hot takes for y'all boys today. Kyle Shanahan might be the most overrated coach in the league, man. Like, to watch this team play football, to watch him, he's supposed to be an offensive genius, right? We're the 28th best team in the red zone. If he's such a genius, why can't we put the ball in? The other part that's driving me crazy, dog, is he drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. The kicker, Craig, is hot garbage. He missed 3 field goals yesterday. And Craig, I almost smashed my phone. Dog, I was getting ready to throw my phone and just destroy it, watching this kicker kick, watching Kyle Shanahan call plays. Then they told me, Craig, they said, well, once McCaffrey comes back, we'll be better in the red zone. Really? Were we? Were we better? Were we? I have lost all faith in Kyle Shanahan, dog. And the only way he could get my faith back is if he wins the Super Bowl. And I just don't think he's Andy Reid in Philadelphia. He's never going to get over that hump, except Andy Reid went somewhere else and got over the hump. The reason why Kansas City always beats our ass is because Andy Reid's a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. They're not even on the same level of coach. So I've lost faith in you, Kyle. I've definitely lost faith in you. Even in victory yesterday. Dog, you ever watch your team win and you're still pissed off at the end of the game because you looked at them and you were like, we're not going anywhere. And that's what it felt like yesterday.
Wins are so few and far between for my team, my brother, that I take them how I can
You have
get
that feeling at the beginning of the season before the first game.
I take them how I can get them.
So that would be my other take from last night, from yesterday. Doc, I'm not Doc, didn't we punish Germany enough for World War II? Why the hell did we send the Giants and the Panthers over there? Jesus Christ. Wasn't the Treaty of Versailles enough? Y'all don't know what the Treaty of Versailles is, Google it. But this must have been part of the punishment.
The stadium was packed. The game went into overtime. Europe got what they wanted.
But Doc, watching the Giants play offense with Daniel Jones is so painful. Like, it hurts. Like, you watch him play and you're like, did you watch any of the game?
Yeah, I watched
it. Did you see the flea flicker play?
I did not see the flea flicker play.
Doc, they run on 3rd and 1. They call it flea flicker. Buddy pitches it back to Daniel Jones. He's got 2 deep crossers, both wide open, and he just refused to throw the ball and took a sack. And I'm just like, how can they keep running this guy out there, dog? I don't understand.
And so as a Giants fan, to me, that in lies the question. We know who he was, we know who he is. Past performance is indicative of future performance, and they still put him out there. So I'm past Daniel Jones. I'm looking at the coach. He's calling the offensive plays. I'm looking at the general manager,
when he's calling a good play, the quarterback won't let the ball go.
But that's what it's all connected. Call different plays, get him out of there. But they put him out there and they keep running the same plays. And so to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is the definition of fill in the blank. And that's what they keep doing. So I'm over it.
Like, Craig, I love football, dog. So if you tell me there's an NFL game on at any time, I'm getting up. I set my alarm to get up for it. And dog, I sat there halfway through the first quarter, and I was like, why the hell did I get up to watch this shit? Like
you and every other Giants fan.
Oh my God.
Asking the same question.
And I'm looking at Neighbors, and I'm like, this guy looks like he has out of this world talent, but he has this scrub at quarterback. It's just, and Daniel Jones looks so lost to me, dog. Like just lost out there.
Yeah.
Like he's never played the game of football.
It's bad. It's unfortunate. All
The
right,
best
Brother
team
Craig.
to beat right now, even though the Chiefs are undefeated, they got so lucky against the Broncos, dog. I'm so tired of the Chiefs. Oh, I'm so tired of the Chiefs.
I know.
But you got to respect that they find a way. But I think the best team in football right now is the Detroit Lions. That comeback against Houston was impressive, dog. Was impressive.
Yeah. What's your takes, Uncle Craig? What you seeing in the league?
Craig thinks the Raiders are going to win the Super Bowl.
What's up?
You think the Raiders are going to win the Super Bowl?
No. Don't put that on my Craig. Don't put that on my
dog. Dog, to defect from my own misery with the Raiders and Dolphins and things like that, I'm more enjoying the misery of other fan bases like the Jets and the Cowboys.
Oh, the Jets. I love the Jets.
Yeah,
I love the Jets, Craig. I'm with you, dog.
Dog, the water cooler talk from these fan bases over the years has been difficult to stomach. So as that, their preseason talk versus what's going on right now, man, I got a chilled beer glass in the freezer ready to collect them tears and sip it slowly. You know what I'm saying? So despite whatever's going on with my favorite franchises, I'm enjoying whatever's going on over there with the Jets and the Cowboys. And that's kind of, I've been kind of championing the Detroit Lions as a dark horse for a couple years. I'm kind of, it's looking more and more like this is the year they come through for me on my big talk surrounding them. But I do like what I see over there. I've enjoyed the coach since day one. I like what he's been trying to build. I like the direction they're going in, and I'm low key rooting for him. Well, maybe not so low key.
The Jets situation, man. I love that it's happening to Aaron Rodgers because I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. So to see how miserable they are, to see how they gave him everything he wanted and none of it's working out. You know what else I loved about yesterday, Craig and Carlton? You remember when he sold out Mike Williams in that first game, talking about he ran the wrong route? To watch Mike Williams catch the game-winning touchdown for Pittsburgh with Russell Wilson, I loved it. I loved it, man. Hey, man, Mike Tomlin is the man, dog. Like, I thought he was crazy for going to Russ, but he knew what he was doing. Like, Russell Wilson looks hasn't looked like this in forever. He looks like he remembers that he was Russell Wilson. So
dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah, dog, he looks like a new man with Tomlin. Like, dog, and I thought Tomlin was crazy for going away from Justin Fields, but he's not crazy. Did you see the interview where Brandon Marshall asked him, what do you say to all the people that think it's crazy for you to go from Russell Wilson to Justin Fields after Russell's been playing so good? And Mike Tomlin just looks in the camera and goes, that's why I get paid the big money. And he just walks off. Like, I love that guy. Like, dog, I love me some Mike Tomlin.
I want to give a shout out. Shout out to the Ravens with that South Florida quarterback, Broward County home team. I like what the Ravens are doing also a lot.
My take on the Ravens, though, dog, they lose some games that you don't think they're going to lose.
This is true.
Yeah, well, they got to do it in the playoffs. I mean, regular season.
We know the Ravens are good in the regular season.
We know Lamar MVP, Derrick Henry having, a
offensive player of the year.
A rejuvenance in his career. But Ravens got to do it in the Lamar, and the Ravens have to do it in the playoff because he's also been the 1-2 no show.
South Florida QB still cheering for him.
Somebody somebody stop the Chiefs from getting this three-peat. Just please, anybody.
So I was going to ask you, so you know how I felt about the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick during their tenure. Is that how you feel about the Chiefs, Uncle Mo?
No.
Yes, I hated the Patriots, and I just as equally hate the Chiefs. But I'm also biased because they beat my team in the Super Bowl. But Doc, there's something about the Chiefs. You feel like they get every call. You feel like every break goes their way. It's just annoying. And full admission, I can't stand Patrick Mahomes. I don't like when he does that thing with his hand where he calls them back to the huddle. I don't like the way he walks. I don't like the way he runs. I'm just annoyed with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs stuff. Even though I love Andy Reid.
For as much as disdain I have for the Patriots, I don't feel that way about the Chiefs. And they're not my team, but I also find that I'm enjoying their ride. They play my Giants, they play, even 49ers. I'm a cheer for you, Uncle Mo. But I'm enjoying the ride. They don't bother me like the Patriots did.
I hate them.
I agree with you on that, Carlton. And a large part of it is because even though they're winning and they're undefeated, the texture, they're not as dominant as the Patriots were. So it doesn't extract the same vitriol from me.
But Doc, they could do something that no one's ever done in three-peat. Like no one's ever done that. So
and
yeah, I got
be witness to it. You be witness to it.
I don't want to be witness to it. I don't want to see that shit.
I'm interested to see what the Vegas odds are so I can bet against it.
I think Raven, if the Ravens had a team that could do it, they definitely have the offense for it. But they got to fix that secondary. Whatever transpired with them and Cincinnati the other day, they pulled out the victory. But they can't be that porous. They can't be that porous.
But that's why it's hard for me to take them seriously, Carlton. How many teams have won the Super Bowl with the worst pass defense in the league?
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
It's hard to take that.
They got their pants pulled down.
Mm-hmm.
But dog, they've been the worst pass defense in the league before that game. And then I agree with Carlton on this point. You can't just let one guy get 246 yards on you receiving and 3 touchdowns and expect us to think you can win the Super Bowl. Like that's wild.
that's not Super Bowl win, especially with the offenses that they'll be up against. So, all right. Well, we'll take a break and be right back. This is Unsolicited Genius.
Excel Sports Chiropractic.
Welcome back to Unsolicited Genius. Before we get out of here, let me remind you to like, subscribe, and follow wherever we are. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, all the little places and spaces, YouTube. Like, subscribe, follow, share, comment. Let us know what you think. Special shout out to the super producer, Joe Nitty. Thank you as always for making us look good, making us sound good. Thank you to our sponsors, Legacy Wear, where your legacy awaits. You can learn more about them at www.legacywearus.com. Brother Craig's rocking the hat. Megacore CBD, broad spectrum hemp-derived CBD, the way nature intended. Learn more about them at www.megacorecbd.com. Aura Rainwater Hydrate and Elevate. Learn more about how they do what they do at aurarainwater.com. And Unsolicited Genius, the company, the brand, the podcast show, the coaching and consulting services, a consciousness company. Learn more about all that we are and all that we do at www.unsolicitedgenius.com. All right, before we get out of here, gentlemen, special shout outs you wants to give. Start with you, Brother Craig. Who you want to shout out?
Nobody. I'm good.
All right, Uncle Mo, who you want to shout out?
Greg said, I just want to thank myself. I just want to thank me. Man, shout out to my dog, my brother, my mentor, Carlton, man. Congratulations once again on getting married. Shout out to his lovely bride, Mrs. Ennis. Mrs. Ennis, you know how much I love you. You two always hold a special place in my heart, man. If there's anything I could ever do for y'all, you know, I would drop everything I'm doing to try to help you out. So love y'all. I wish you, you know, nothing but happiness, but also the strength to get through the rocky times, because, you know, that's going to happen in marriage. But special shout out to your union that you guys confessed in front of God, man. So that's my shout out.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I shout out my boo, my bride, my wife now. If ever y'all want to see who she is, what she do, how to shout out to press play at Coach K. She got podcasts out there. She's been slow on it, but duty's been calling. We'll have her on the show one of these days. And to my best man, Khalil, he held me down. He stood me up while we did it. And he looked good in the process. So
that's my
boy.
Man. My boy was looking down on his pop.
So to the family as it continues to grow, much love from me to all of us. All right. So today's thought of genius. So we talked election, we talked result outcomes, we talked feelings and opinions. And for me, as much as I'm not surprised by the election outcome, hard to say disappointed in the sense that I know who we are. I knew who we were before. I knew who we were before Election Day. But rather than sulk, be fearful, be angry, be mad, be sad, or even victorious for those who feel they won, their side won. What I offer for the pool of thought is, in all situations, at all times, there's always a path to doing the most good. And if you feel rejected and dejected by the election outcome, do some good. If you feel you were justified and validated by the election outcome, do some good. Because as you've heard my brothers in podcast mentioned earlier today, there are forces at play that don't care how you voted. There are forces at play that suggest that whether you vote left or right, they're going to get their way, sun up, sun down any given day. So in understanding that, my question is, what is the purpose of it all? And what we know is that we all want to eat good. We all want to sleep good. We all want good for our children. We just have different beliefs based on nature, nurture, ethnicity, race, gender, etc., as to how we get there. So rather than continue to fight through the differences, as Maya Angelou said, we are more alike than we are unalike. And so we are all alike in that we all can do the most good. And from wherever you are, whenever you are, the most good is always available to you right now. So food for thought, thoughts for consideration. And when circumstances are not going your way, often what will turn the tide is shifting your energy, shifting how you do what you do. And if what you put out is good, what will come back to you will also be good. So join us next week, same genius time, same genius channel. And from whenever you are, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Craig D, Molat, You are listening to Unsolicited Genius.